This is a septic system with leach trenches and what's called a diverter box. The leach trenches are divided into two halves. We have what we would usually call the upper half, which is closest to the septic tank, and the lower half, which would be the farthest away. There's two boxes here. This box is the diverter box. This is the first trench on what would be the upper side. Currently, the system is using the upper side. To switch a diverter box, you would take it, this pipe goes down to the lower side, and we're not using it, it's shut off. And that's the reason for this elbow. Take that off and put it on here. Now, we'll be using the lower side and giving the upper side a rest. If you don't know which pipes are which, the easiest usually is to try and line up with the septic system, the septic tank, which would be this line here coming in. We do not want to put the elbow on there because that will cause problems up there in the septic tank. We want to switch these two on the trenches, the one going to this box and the one that comes out and runs along and goes down to those lower boxes. The reason for that is this water is still a little bit dirty when it comes out of the septic tanks. By giving this side a rest, the stuff that the water carries with it that's dissolved or the same weight as the water, little particles will go out and get accumulated in the trench. By giving this one a rest for a year, we try and let it bioremediate itself and let nature take its course and degrade some of that material so that when you put the water back to it again, the water can get back out into the soils. Not all systems you can go a year. Some of them you have to do a little bit sooner. If you start to get a wet spot out over the side that you're using, you may have to change it before the year time. If you can let it go up to a year, that's the best thing to do. And the reason for the year is to get a full cycle of seasons. We don't want to be changing it in October and April, and that side that we're not using and resting through the winter months doesn't get a good warm soil for the bacteria and stuff to remediate it and to try and digest it and to take that material away. The solids reach about 25 to 30% of the volume. So that's the amount of upper crust and the amount of lower crust gets about 25 to 30% of that total volume. So the reason for that is you want those things to settle out and raise the top. When it starts to get over the 30%, then it starts to send out dirtier water to the secondary treatment. And that's what we don't want. Everybody wants to know if when their tank is full. Well, you don't want a tank full. It's kind of like an oil filter. When it's full, it's too late. You want to pump it, when it's ready to be pumped. That bacteria has to work to get out of the pipe and into where the actual issues are. So by us trying to get that heavy stuff out of the pipe and get the pipe cleaned out, when we put the material in there, it can go out of the pipe and out into the stone where it can work a little bit quicker and a little bit more effectively. So we're cutting down on the work that it has to do a little bit. What will happen is they'll get so much of that heavy sludge in there that instead of going out of the pipe, instead of going out into the soils, it'll start to surface and you'll have wet spots. Or it'll just overflow the box. We want it to go out of those trenches and down into the soil. And so after a period of time, now, not every one we can fix either. There's some of them that do what we call bleed. They surface right from the very beginning because they were put in maybe a bad soil or something. If it's worked for 20-25 years, they've never had a problem with it. It's not bleeding, but now all of a sudden in the last year it started to bleed a little bit. It started to surface. Then those are the ones that we can try and remediate and fix. But we have to have a little bit of history on the system to know what we're dealing with, and sometimes we'll go as far as having a soil scientist come out and look at the soils around the system to tell us if we can get the water into the soil. Well, soil take the water away, or is it just such a bad soil that it won't?